WSKY TV News, Lexington.
The news is brought to you by SkybridgePress.com, the Journal Kentucky Lexington Monitor, and a still small voice, the Vatican, the USA, and Israel in Bible prophecy. SkybridgePress.com.
Thank you both and all on that. Bringing us to our last item on the agenda, which I have labeled the keeping of animals, and I will take that to Councilmember Kay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a little PowerPoint presentation, and if it anybody would not object, I'm going to go to the podium and present that to you.
Yes, as you like. I have got two people in the audience signed up to speak after your presentation, so we're in good shape, except for our time running up against 3 o'clock.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Council members. I want to provide a little bit of a framework for this discussion, starting with the fact that I received a request from people who are interested in urban farming that the present ordinance, which prohibits the keeping of goats and pigs within the urban service boundary, be amended to allow, with some restrictions, the keeping of small breeds of these animals. This issue has been before the committee a number of times, and each time there's been a request that the original proposal be modified to add further restrictions, and that we gather more information about what's being done in other cities and towns to handle this issue. Those restrictions have been added and address the concerns that have been raised. Today I'll be presenting that information. I want to thank my aide, Leah Boggs, for her hard work on all of this. And I'll be asking the committee to move this issue to the full council. And there are a couple of people, as the chair has noted, who would like to speak to this issue. So when I'm done and you've had your chance to ask questions and make comments, I'd like to give them a chance to speak. We can keep an unlimited number of the following animals in non-agricultural zones, and there's a whole list of them that you see there. I won't read them out for you. We cannot keep dangerous wildlife, and at the moment, hogs, pigs, or goats, any bull, cow, etc., anything that makes a noise to disturb the peace. In looking at goats and pigs, we did a little research, and there are essentially 3 categories. You start with standard, which is a fairly large animal. They've been bred down to be miniature, and then dwarf or pygmy goats. So why are people interested in goats? Some people would like to have the opportunity to have fresh organic milk. Some people feel that they help with waste disposal. They eat weeds and leftovers. Unlike other pets, their waste can be composted. They're fun, friendly. People like 4-H and other kinds of projects. So types of pigs, same issue. There's a standard size, and then they've been bred down, and you can read the various sizes that they have there. And why do people want to keep pigs? They're kept mostly as pets. They're friendly, clean, smart, trainable. People like having them around. So the question was raised, what do other jurisdictions do? So what you have in front of you now is a slide that lists a number of cities that allow these within the urban service area or within their city limits with no restrictions. Covington, Wilmore, Hopkinsville, and then we go further afield to larger cities. All cities that do allow them do require that they be properly treated, that the waste be properly treated, that they don't create a nuisance in terms of odor, noise, etc. In addition to those cities, there's a long list of cities that allow these same animals with some restrictions. There we go. So starting with the jurisdictions within Kentucky and then going on to larger cities, these are all jurisdictions that allow these animals with some restrictions. And the restrictions that are in these other cities include a fairly long list. The size, the fencing, the space requirements, requirements that male goats be castrated, that there be the rear yard space for these animals, and so on. The specific restrictions, where you can keep, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. A fair number of restrictions. For the most part, we've asked other cities, and they do not report any serious problems, except occasionally, as people have noted, goats are very adept at getting out of enclosures. In terms of current problems experienced by Lexington Animal Care and Control, the minor problems are that if they get out, sometimes owners don't claim them, and these are hard to place up for adoption. So then we get to the specific problems, and I think the way in which we've addressed them with this ordinance. In terms of people's concern about the smell, females and castrated males do not smell. In terms of noise, these animals are relatively quiet, and they are certainly not vocal at night. People are concerned about goats escaping, so we've added to the proposed ordinance requirements that there be fencing at least 4 feet high, that you must have at least 2 goats, because goats like company. Aggression is not an issue. Impact on neighbors' flowers and so on, we've addressed by adding a setback and fencing requirement. And the waste issue is addressed by basically pointing out that unlike meat-eating animals, the goats and pigs, their waste can be used as fertilizer and compost. It does not create the same kind of problem. With pigs, essentially the same list of concerns and the same ways of dealing with this set of issues. So we get to the current proposal, and that is for goats that they be no more than 24 inches at the withers, that there be at least 2 and no more than 6, that the males be neutered by 6 months of age, that they be provided with 10 square feet of shelter space per animal, 60 square feet of open space, 10 feet setback from property line. It must be in the rear yard. The doorway must be oriented away from adjoining property, a 48-inch fence, and that waste, smell, and noise be controlled. For pigs, that they be no larger than 22 inches, that there be no more than 2 at a residence, that the females also be spayed and males neutered, and again, that waste, smell, and noise be controlled. We have taken a couple of shots of schematics of what it would look like in various size lots. 4,000 square foot lot, which is fairly small, would have room for no more than did not like my example. He does, yes. You can see what it would look like if there were 2 goats. 10,000 square foot, again, information for you. I want to thank, in addition to Leah, a few people who provided information for this. Susan Malcolm with Lexington Animal Care and Control, Ken Andrews with Kentucky State University, and Terry Hutchins also, who's not listed here, Richard Coffey from UK, Jeremy Porter, who just had to take his son out of the meeting, and Laura Dofta Martinez with the Goat Justice League. As I said, what I would like to do today, and I will after we have further comment, is make a motion that this go forward to the full council for its consideration. Thank you for your attention, and I'd like to ask if there are people who are here to address the issue. Thank you.
I have first signed up with Matt Schwarberg. Welcome.
Thank you. Matt Schwarberg. I live over on Kingston Road. I was just looking through this. I'm a big proponent of keeping goats because of, like it's been brought up before in the packet, or in the slideshow Councilmember Kay showed us, they're basically better animals than dogs. There is not a noise problem as with large dogs or any dogs. The mess or the waste can be easily constrained and controlled. And I was looking through the paper here on the and it said the complaints, and we've gotten there's been complaints from animal control saying that nobody wants to claim them. Well, that's because it's illegal, and nobody wants to come say, yeah, I've been breaking the law. Here's my fine, and not being able to adopt them out because nobody can have them. So by legalizing it and allowing them to be considered as pets, as they are great animals, that would clear up animal controls issues. And also, the reason, I've had goats in the past, and the biggest reason we've had for them is the choice in our foods. I'm really against genetically modified food, and I try to watch what exactly goes into my food. So, by being able to keep a dairy animal on my property, I'd be able to control my milk consumption. And Lexington also has a very large multicultural immigrant community, and goat meat is a large staple in some of these people from other areas' diets. I know that wasn't brought up. Their
Person signed up, and it is Laura Doth. Welcome.
Hi, y'all. Good to see y'all again. I'm Laura Doth Martinez with the Villegas Goat Justice League. I live off of Big Bear Lane. That's off of Tate's Creek. And I'm here representing our group, which continues to gain members. We have, as the last count, over 120 members. That's gone up about 30 people since the last time we were here. And the main reason we want them is exactly what Matt stated, that it's a way we can have fresh milk. We know how our animals are treated. That's a huge concern for people that are willing to raise these animals and for the milk. I'm not the only one. There's actually a few more people that have come to talk. So I'll go ahead and sit back down. And I'd like to know if I could have permission to come if there were any other questions or concerns that the council members raised that we might be able to address later.
Well, I think we might be better off to do that later. Because I've got 3 council members signed up. Let's hear what they have to say, and then we'll dovetail back, all right?
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, I think there may be other people in the audience who did not sign up, but who may be interested in speaking to this. Yeah. You want to take council members first?
I do, because if there's an opportunity for us to act on this, it'll be the council that'll do it rather than the public commentary. And I'd like to hear the council's comments, and then we'll see where we get to by 3 o'clock. That's all right. Yep. First up would be council.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I've gotten a lot of emails about this, most of them supporting this issue. I think one thing that we need to make abundantly clear is the type of pigs we are talking about are not the pigs you see out on the farm that are used for meat. They are, many of them, household pets. They litter train easier than a cat. And, they're extremely trainable because they'll do anything for food. So I think that the general public has gotten the impression that when we talk about pigs, we're talking about the kind of pigs you see out on farms that are very large. These are not pigs that are used to slaughter for meat. So that being said, we certainly, I know I get an awful lot of calls for dogs running at large without waste pickup and by the owners and barking. So that's what I had to say.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Next is Councilmember Stennett.
Thank you, Chair. Even though I'm not a member of the committee, I do get an opportunity if it comes out of committee to vote at the full council level. Just had a couple of questions for Chris King on our lot size in Fayette County. Chris, do we know what our average lot size is? I mean, if you take 60 by 100, which is usually R1D lots, that's 6,000 square feet. I just didn't know if we knew off the top of our head what our average lot size is in Fayette County, average zone. Okay. Because I think, one of the important issues, Councilmember Kane, I don't know if you've really looked at this, is determine it by lot size. I mean, obviously, if someone has an acre lot, it's a little less intrusive use for some of these pets, as you call a pig, or a goat, as you use for eating and harvesting, whatever it may be. Did you look at that at all in terms of lot size? Because we have some lots in my district, quite frankly, if you even put a dog in there, it causes a problem with the neighbors. Did you look at that at all?
That data is a little bit hard to come by, I think. What we did do is kind of look more generally, and that's why we gave you the 3 examples. The 4,000 square foot lot size is probably typical of most of the urban area, and what that indicates is that that's enough space, if someone really wanted to have probably a pair of goats, and that's all.
So you would limit it based on lot size? You couldn't have more than 2?
Well, they have to have the space dedicated to shelter and a minimum amount of space in the yard for the goat. And when you put those together in a small backyard, that's pretty much what you'd get. If you look at that illustration. Square foot lot was taken from is somewhere in the downtown area.
Actually, I can't see.
Oh, yes, this place I know well. So in my neighborhood, you'd have a hard time coming up with more space than enough for a couple of goats in a downtown urban backyard.
So you all are not recommending it based on lot size? You're just saying
you have to have the minimum amount of space for the animal. And if someone wants to...
But you're not limited in how many you can have in that space?
You have to have so much space per animal.
Okay.
And so you have to have... Let me read the ordinance. Your backyard, and my guess is most people don't want to do that.
Okay.
So that the limit would be on whether you have space for the shelter, and there's a maximum of 6 goats no matter what.
Right. Okay. And this is very similar to our kennel ordinance. I know one of the slides referenced that you can have an unlimited number of dogs in a yard, and that's not true.
Not true.
The most you can have is 7 dogs. After you have the 7th, heavy restrictions apply, and then because a kennel license would there in fact ensue inspections, do an inspection, health department. So it's a much different ballgame on dogs. The other animals you listed, the state law doesn't specifically cover cats, so we don't have any local restrictions yet on those. But I do know we have restrictions on the number of dogs. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, sir. Next up is Councilmember Blues.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. They're irresponsible or uncooperative owners, or some combination of all 3. And as we know, it's a very difficult enforcement problem when you've got a barking dog that drives people crazy, and yet you have to go through various hoops to try to do something about the problem. So I think there are, although I'm sympathetic to this ordinance. I know that other municipalities, permit these animals. But I do have some questions, and one of them does relate to enforcement. We don't enforce adequately our barking dog ordinance. Are we going to be able to enforce all of the various restrictions that, if we pass the ordinance under consideration, the pig or goat owners are going to be responsible to? Do we have enforcement capacity? Will we have to add staff in some way? I think that's a question that needs to be answered. Second question is, I understand that the goats would be, I guess they could be pets. They can also be milk producers. They can also be slaughter animals. I suppose you'd be able to slaughter the pigs as well if you wanted to, although apparently they're more pet type than not. And I know that we do we allow slaughter of animals as long as it can't be seen. But what do we have any sanitation rules on slaughtering? Any controls over what is done with the, how do I put this, the leftovers.
Well done. No further.
But in other words, those are two questions, two concerns that I would have.
The news is brought to you by skybridgepress.com, publisher of the Holy Lexington Empire. skybridgepress.com.